We go. All right, we are live. We are live, and everybody, let me get on Facebook. Let's go live here. Let's get out of that. Start live video. Starting live video. All right, how is everybody? I don't know if it does. I don't know. We got to get a check here. All right. Your choice, because whatever one you use, I'm going to use the other one. Because you know I miss those bongos. Huh? Well, can you handle the chorus? If you can handle the chorus, I'd love to the drum. All right, go ahead. All right, go ahead. All right.
We should be in two.
We should be in. All right, so. Making you look what? Ah. I know the camera adds how many pounds to you? 10.
Does it? Turn it away.
Oh, that Facebook feed with my phone is not going to be great. Well, we'll just get Jack. That's all we can. That's a good looking.
Go right here in front of us. Give the best look, Jack.
One more song to introduce. Huh? There you go.
Watch this one. Anybody got good rhythm? You want to reach out, huh?
I'm going to do one more song here. And try and get next to Jack here. So much just for the. Oh, come on up, Ronti. It's either you or Alexis, one of you two. Getting up and doing
Don't be
shy. And you shall be our you shall be our you shall be great. And all shall praise your name. We belong to the place that listen, Father, listen, Father, we shall.
Please come up with me, please. You guys move this way.
Oh, I love it. Control chaos. Let's wait for some people. Who we got? Marsha Rosen. Hi, Marsha. How are you? And who else?
Come on out, everybody. Shabbat shalom. Everybody wave at the camera. We're stars tonight. Everybody move this way. Let's do the blessing. Shabbat.
Everybody crowd in. Let's really show that coronavirus who's boss.
That's right. Let's crowd in. Crowd in, woman. Okay, here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadibner shel Shabbat.
Eishen chayil miyim sabra chot b'vinim l'chra bet hafalei ba'alav shalom le'yitzar shecha ahem havel hayoti eisha yireh Adonai hi'talal tanu lamed re'yadecha v'alucha basarim la'asecha. An accomplished woman, we got them all. It's wonderful. Far beyond pearls other value. False's grace made his beauty. A God-fearing woman, she should be praised. So give her the fruits of her hand and let her be praised by the gates by her very own deed.
Amen.
Amen. All right. So thank you all for being here. And what? What do you need?
Need a roadie.
You need a roadie. Well, let's just pull the chairs out. So I may stagger a little bit here too because I got the phone. I got the smartphone. Not so smart because it's only catching a couple of people. So maybe I'll just move this over here a little bit. Stand close to you. There we go. So people can see me and they'll say, no, move out of the camera. What's next? I don't know.
Who's next?
Who's next?
We lost our camera replay.
We lost our camera replay. We lost our camera replay. Oh my God. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We start the service with, I guess we'll start with Shalom Aleichem. And Shalom Aleichem, for those of you following at home in the book, page 16. We're using the Siddur Chadash. And if you've downloaded the pamphlet that we have online, you just follow the flow, and we're good to go. Shalom Aleichem on page 16. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashem, Malachei So Shalom Aleichem means peace to all of us. And it talks about angels. Angels are kind of a current, a continuous presence in the Torah and in our prayers. Why? Because they're nothing more than messengers. That's all they are. God says, or the people, the sages say that God creates angels, to sing his praises, which sounds a little self-aggrandizing, but when you consider everything that God has done for us, then it really puts it into perspective. So we say in the morning blessings for Shabbat, and actually every day, we say God who not only created, but who sustains the world. And angels are his messengers, his agency. Now, even so, we do not put our trust in any angels or on any angelic being who we are. We only rely on God. But again, they're messengers. So we're going to go through the Kabbalah Shabbat. Shabbat means to receive, and we're happy that it's Shabbat with candles, and we're going to go through the prayers. So we're going to call on people to do a lot of this stuff. Alexis, would you like to lead the service? Okay, just I wanted to make the art. Any of you kids, would you like to lead the service? I've got a menu. I've got it's easy. All you gotta do is go. Oh, somebody's out of practice. All right, so we are going to do the Kabbalah Shabbat. And I think we'll go just with our regular flow. Kabbalah means to receive. The evening service on Shabbat is unique among all the other evening services, festivals too a little bit, in that it's the only time during the week when we actually have Psalms during the evening. So let's go to page 22 and 24. We'll do the usual. The L'chut Rayana, Shir Ladonai. And these are the first two of the Psalms. In the beginning, there's about 5 Psalms attributed to Moses. And let's do some music. English on the side of the page. The Lord, praise God's name. God's salvation. Or lines from bottom. Yes.
That is in dedication to B'nai Chaim and all the founders. I will never forget the way the old guys yelled out that. Yes, and they would follow it. Just like that. Amazing.
Actually, it was really Dave Davis who did that.
Well, Dave Davis was amazing.
He was amazing. Erwin, Bill, how you doing? Francis, how are you doing? I do listen too much. So let's do responsive reading. You know, the Rebbeson and I, Rebbeson Chris, have spent about 2 months doing responsive reading. So we're going to ask some of you to come up and do a responsive reading. All right. Any volunteers? Larry, good. He's getting up. You have a book. Oh my gosh, you got a book now. Read. Oh yeah. That's where the books are.
Yeah.
We put the books out there so when people come in. And I've even got some pamphlets over there if people need it. So those pamphlets, I don't know, you remember when Aaron Kaplan got bar mitzvah, We had to do it off-site. So what we did was I had made kind of a little pamphlet anyway, and they just ran with it, and they just took it, and that's what we used. So if we would, should we have them come up, Chris, or from their seats?
Yes, let people come up. They need to come up. And Deb just said, yes, Dave Davis.
All right, yes, of course. Dave was a Holocaust survivor. He met his wife. What was Dave's wife? Frances. Met Frances while they were being liberated. So you remember Dave Davis, right? You guys remember? You don't remember Dave? So Dave was the one that would shout out, "Hush, this is Shemayim," and he would sing that. But Dave actually, with some other Jews, escaped confinement in one of the camps, and they joined the resistance. Yeah, so he had some experience. He never talked about him, but he's, yeah, so interesting. But you know. So, please. All right, so how about let's do on page, I think we did 27 last time. How about page 29? And let's see. All right, yeah, go ahead. Yes, please. Really loud, really loud.
Sing a new song unto the Lord, who has done marvelous things. His holy power has brought deliverance. The Lord has made known
The saving power, he has revealed his triumph before the nations.
God lovingly remembers his faithfulness to Israel. The very ends of the earth have witnessed God's deliverance.
Acclaim the Lord, all the earth. Break forth into jubilant singing.
Praise the Lord with the harp. The harp is the voice of song.
With trumpets and the sound of the shofar, shout praise before our sovereign the Lord.
He roar and all within it. Let the world and its inhabitants give praise.
Let the rivers clap hands in gladness. Let the mountains join in song. Amen. So since we're back, I'm going to do this. We are going to do Lakado Day. And we'll just do the first two verses on page 38. So Lakado Day is considered the centerpiece of the Kabbalat Shabbat. It's actually a Kabbalistic, the last verse there. And it is traditional to rise and face the entrance of our little synagogue. And we're officially kind of welcoming in the Sabbath bride. Now, the Sabbath bride is just an illusion. It's just an illusion, like a comparison. It's just like a, what do you say, like an anthropomorphism, I guess is the best word to put it. A symbol. Okay, we're not, again, there's no beings here, no spiritual, no metaphysical beings, but it's really the essence. It's the representation of the spirit of Shabbat. And that's what it is. So let's do the first two verses on 38, then we'll rise and we'll face the entrance. And we'll use my favorite version, the jazzed up Craig Talbot version. First verse. Shabbat is on the ready Please rise. Ryan and Dogway, can we please have you lead us in the Sabbath Psalm on page 43? And of course, the Sabbath Psalm now. L'chadodi, what was the first verse? Shamor v'zachor, guard and remember. So in the 10 Commandments, the fourth commandment is to honor the Shabbat, right? So in Exodus, when Moses comes down from the mount with his tablets, the commandment is Shamor, guard. Keep the Sabbath. In Deuteronomy, when we have the second in Deuteronomy for all those chemists and scientists, right? What is the first isotope of hydrogen? We have hydrogen. What's the next isotope? Anybody know what it's called? So hydrogen has a proton in the middle, an electron. That's it, right? You add a neutron, you get heavy hydrogen. It's called deuterium. Second. So Deuteronomy. See what you learned? We've got some science here. So it's the second retelling. So in the second, in Deuteronomy, when we get the second dose of the 10 Commandments for the, because a new generation is going into the Promised Land, it's Zachor, remember. So here they put it together so that we don't remind, that we don't forget. So we go to the Sabbath Psalm now. Again, nothing in there about Sabbath, but the reason it's the Sabbath Psalm, the Psalm for the Shabbat day, is because it talks about divine justice. That in the end, everything works out. So, if we can, please lead us in a responsive reading on page 43, and then we'll do Sadiq tomorrow.
It is good to thank you, O Lord, to sing praises to your exalted name.
To proclaim your love every morning and your faithfulness every night.
To the sound of the tinsel lyre, with the voice and music of the harp.
Your works, O Lord, bring us gladness. Of your deeds, we sing with joy.
How great you are, your deeds, O Lord. How profound are your designs.
The simple cannot comprehend, the foolish cannot grasp us.
To the wicked, you thrive like grass, and the doers of evil seem to flourish.
Their doom is sure to come, for yours is the ultimate triumph.
Those who oppose you will perish, the workers of iniquity will be drowned.
I have given you
Like one who has been anointed.
I see that the feet of my foes, I hear the doom of my enemies.
Righteous will flourish like the palm tree. They will thrive like the cedar oak.
Planted in the house of the Lord, they will flourish in the courts of our God.
even old age, they will bear fruit.
Gaining their vigor and their strength.
Proclaiming that the Lord is just, my rock, in whom there is no unrighteousness.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah, people like me, even in old age, they will retain their vigor and their strength. We repeat that a lot. Sadiq Tamar, the last 4 lines, you can find the transliteration if you need it on the bottom. Sadiq So that is going to conclude the Kabbalat Shabbat part of our service, the first part of our service, I'm going to don a talit. Got to make it a little official. Only to identify myself as religiously to the rabbi, because of course we don't in the evening. We don't wear talitot. It's not really evening yet, but we don't because it says in the Hafta at the last paragraph, when you look at the tzitzits and when it's dark, you can't see them, so they don't. They figured, well, we just wear them during the day. I know. So to go from one section of the service to another, we go to the Maariv service, but first we do a sanctification. It's to separate the two parts of the service, and it's also just as an excuse to acknowledge God. So what we'll do is the sanctification, the Kaddish that we'll use is the mourner's Kaddish. We will announce the Yortzites at the end when we do it again. But for now, if you are observing a Yortzeit, which is an anniversary of somebody's death, if somebody that's been close to you died within the last year, or if you would just like to rise out of respect, you can do that too. We allow that. So please do so on page 124. Let's do it now. We'll face our makeshift ark here. Yikadal, Yikadash, Shemei, Rabban, Aman, Yibra, Ute, Yamlich, Malchute, Chayecho, Yomecho, Chayecho, Mo'et Yisrael, Agalah, Uzizman, Karid, Yimru, Amen. Yehi, Shemei, Rabban, Barak, Barak, Lomei, Maya, Yibara, Yishamah, Yibahar, Yibamah, Yitzay, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shemei, Yikudsha, Rekut. Elah, Mikol, Berchata, Bishirata, Tushmachata, Benechmata, Dal Miramba Alma, Yibru, Amen. Yehesh, Shlam, Araba, Mishmaya, Achayim Aleinu, V'Alko Yisrael, V'Yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, B'Ramah, Ya'aseh, Shalom Aleinu, V'Alko Yisrael, V'Yimru, Amen. Please remain standing as Jack, you turn to page 50. I'm going to call on you and ask you to do the Baruch Hu. Alexis, would you like to join him for the Baruch Hu? You're okay. You're digesting the pizza. I get it. Go ahead. So as long as you got the book, everybody please be seated. Why don't you lead us in a reading, a responsive reading, the paragraph on the bottom of page 51.
O Lord, your word brings on the evening twilight, the heavens proclaim your glory.
And we, your creatures on earth, behold and wonder your endless miracles.
Help us to recognize your guiding power in distant galaxies and in our own souls.
Teach us your law of righteousness and love, so that your spirit may govern our lives.
Source of peace, bless our worship. May our meditations find favor in your sight.
May our gratitude for your wonders lead us in love to your service.
So that, like the changing seasons, the day, the nights, our lives, too, will proclaim your glory. Amen.
Ma'avir yom u'mevil laila, u'mavdil ben yom u'ben laila, Adonai tzva'ot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Ma'ariv, Aradim. Amen. On page 52 is Ahavat Olam. This is the second of the two prayers that lead us into the Shema, a very important, and not really a prayer, more like an affirmation, a big affirmation. So Ma'ariv Aradim just kind of told us that the constellations go to their appointed rounds based on God's will. Right? There's only God. There's no other intermediary. God is the only being that controls everything. That's that affirmation. And now that we've acknowledged that, now we go Avad Olam. You love them. You love your people forever. So Avad Olam on page 52. Avad Olam. Israel, May I have all the kids come on up and lead us in the Shema? That's right. I'm going to say hello to Ellen. Hello. Dave, how you doing? And Chris, thank you for tuning in. Go ahead. Face up. Come on up. Don't be camera shy. Crowd in. There you go. Don't get viruses on each other, but go ahead.
That's fun.
Anytime you're ready. Shema. Louder, they can't hear you. In an undertone. Now the Vihata. Asher Anochi Mitzavacha Hayom Alecha Veshinantam Levanecha Vedivadavam Vashikecha Vedechacha Uvechtecha Vaderech Ushaptecha Uvenecha Ukshatamot Hayadecha Now, would you like to tell the folks what all that means? What does it mean? It's on the other side of the page. Go for it. And you shall love your God.
When you are at home and when you are away, when you lie down at night and when you rise up in the morning. You shall bind them as a sign upon your arm, and they shall be a reminder above your eyes. You shall inscribe them on your doorposts of your arms and on your gates.
Amen. Very good.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. That's awesome.
Right there.
As there were a couple of prayers prior to the Shema in the evening, there are also two prayers afterwards. Jean, why don't you lead us, if you would please, on page 61. Emet Ve'emunah, this is the prayer after, first prayer after the Shema.
True understanding is that there is one God incomparable, and that we, the household of Israel, are God's people.
It is God who redeemed us from the might of tyrants, delivering us from slavery unto freedom.
We are the things which God has done, wonders which are without number.
Egyptian bondage, inspiring hope and faith in every generation.
May God continue to protect our people and guard all humankind from disaster.
The children of Israel beheld God's might. They gave thanks and praised the divine name.
They accepted God's sovereignty willingly and sang in joyous thanksgiving.
Moses and the children of Israel proclaimed in great exultation.
Who is like you, O Lord, among the mighty? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, revered in praises doing wonders?
When you rescued the Israelites of the sea, your children beheld your majesty and power.
This is my God, they exclaimed and said, the Lord shall reign forever and ever.
As you delivered the children of Israel from mighty power, so may you redeem all your children from oppression.
Praised are you, O Lord, Redeemer of Israel.
Malchuto bratzo kiblu aleichem, Moshe ubnei Yisrael, ha'anu sirah b'simcha rabbah, ve'amru kulam, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, norah tehillah, osei tehillah. Okay, I am lifnei Moshe, sailing anu ve'amru, Adonai lo ve'olam va'ed, v'nemar, Yifagah Adonai et Yaakov, v'galo miyad chasach mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Yisrael. Amen. So I stopped singing because I thought maybe I'd just hear the kids. Hashkidenu prayer is the second blessing after the Shema. And basically it is a prayer that we only say in the evening. And actually we say it before we go to bed at night. Because it asks God to protect us when we are at our most vulnerable. So Susan, I got you ready, okay? Yep. If we may, could you please lead us in the top of page 63, responsive reading. Help us to lie down in peace.
Help us, O God, to lay down in peace and awaken us to life on the morrow. May we always be guided
With your counsel, and thus find shelter in your tabernacle of peace.
Shield us, we pray, against our foes, against disease, destruction, and sorrow.
Strengthen us against the forces of evil, which abound on every side.
May we always sense your loving care, for you are a merciful God and sovereign. Guard us always and
Everywhere, bless us with life and peace.
Praise to you, O God, whose love is always with us.
Shelter your people Israel. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu, l'chaim l'shalom me'ata v'ad olam. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Aborei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. So technically, that's the end of the Mariv part of the service. We now go into a prayer that's specifically for Shabbat, the Shamru. It's right from the Torah. It's recited on Shabbat, the Shamru, on page 64. Now go into the Amidah. Really, this is really the crux of the whole service. The Amidah, which means standing, the silent standing prayer, is really the centerpiece of every service because it's supposed to take the place of the sacrifices that we don't do anymore. God said you only do a sacrifice in the tabernacle or in the temple. That's it. No private altars, because that leads to derivations and different interpretations of what the religion is, and then the religion gets contorted. We don't want that. So only in a central place. That's one of the reasons why you go anywhere in the world, you're going to find these prayers in the Torah, same exact words, exactly. So we do that. We go into the Reader's Chatzi Kaddish. Chatzi means half. This is a short Kaddish. Separates what we just did with what's coming with the Amidah. So let's go ahead. Let's do my favorite, the Hasidic version. So what we were doing when we were doing this just live stream, and I use this as an excuse since we don't have enough books for everybody to do their own Amidah, because this is technically an individual prayer in the evening, and there's no repetition. But what the rabbis did, and you go through the Talmud and the history, and the rabbis like to find loopholes, find ways to do things when you can't do stuff. So they said, okay, well, there's not going to be a repetition, but what we can do is a blessing that incorporates all 7 blessings in the Amidah, and they call that the 7-faceted blessing. So that's what we'll do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah El Hagadol HaGibor LaHanorah El Elyon Konei Shamayim Ve'aretz. Page 82 is the 7-faceted blessing. Shalom. Mahel Hakadosh Shein Kamohu Amen Shabbat Shabbat Ratsa Hadiyata Ratsa Hadiyata Nagabot Yerada Just walk inside me, together we will walk in the Oh, say shalom, Nevermore, say shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al Israel, Oh, say shalom, Nevermore, say shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al Israel. Yismachu. Yismachu is in the Musaf and Saturday morning. Yismachu b'malachutacha shalom reish. What? You want to do it? No, I guess. I mean, it's technically for the Musaf. And the Musaf, by the way, Musaf means additional. And it's done during the day because that's when they have the additional sacrifice for Shabbat. I don't even know. I've never played it before. Yeah. Yes, maybe we can do it a little bit.
That's the end of my system.
All right, there you go. No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to wave to a few people. Hi, Paula, and hi, Tom. How are you? Tom's our actor and our hockey player. So, well, we need some inspiration based because of everything that's going on, and you know, there should be justice and fair treatment for everyone. Oh, probably not. There should be justice and fair treatment for everyone. We're all familiar with what's going on in our country right now. We are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel with the COVID virus. We were ready to start becoming a society again, and we're adopting the precautions. In the midst of all this, a tragedy grabbed our country and affected everyone. We were all horrified that a life was taken senselessly And those who are accused of committing crimes have a right to a fair trial. Justice. Now, we may not agree with that, but you know what? You start denying justice to people, and guess what? Your society is going to break down. As we see thousands taking to the streets to express their feelings and protest the treatment of a fellow human being, and unfortunately, many others who have experienced a similar fate, we think that now, after this horrific incident, that this is the final incident. We are thinking that now things have gotten so bad that our country, our world will now finally start to take steps to prevent people of all descents and minority groups to be singled out and are treated unfairly. It's sad that it is taking the loss of yet another life in such a brutal manner that will make people finally realize that indeed we're all brothers and sisters. As Jews, we can relate, can we not? We too experienced persecution for over 1,500 years. I think the number is a little closer to 1,800. From many different groups all over the world. It took a disaster, the Shoah, which in Hebrew means disaster, it's the Holocaust, for the world to finally acknowledge that we needed our homeland back. Unfortunately, while that may have given our people a respite from the oppression from others just because we are Jews, after many years, that sympathy's worn off. And anti-Semitism is once again rearing its ugly head. We've said this many times before, how pervasive it is in the Torah and the Psalms and in our prayers that God expects us, demands and commands us to take care of the widow and the orphan, our fellow who is in financial straits, and the stranger among us, for we were strangers in a strange land. We know what it's like. With this tragedy and the one before it, and the one before it, and the one before it, it's all too obvious why this is so extant in our religion. How many incidences does there have to be before we get it? Violence and oppression is something that we as a human race should never tolerate. In Genesis, it says that God created man. Now, someone once said, that's all it says. It says God created man. It doesn't say God created a white man, or a black man, or a red man, or a yellow man, or a green man. Exactly. Exactly. She said, what do you mean by green man? I said, exactly. Exactly. Just man. And the word for man in parentheses, in quotes, Adam. What does it mean? It means earth. We came from the earth, right? Now, traditional Jews read the Chumash, and where it says God created man, male and female, some people think that God created one being that was both genders. And when God took Eve from Adam, all he did was pull them apart, like Siamese twins. We've seen divergent groups of people come together in solidarity. Yes, there have been those who've been taking advantage. We've heard about that. But for the most part, people have been very civil. They are marching and expressing their anger and frustration in a very appropriate catharsis. As we look around the country, we even see law enforcement officials joining with people because their outrage is expressed as well. Many of us are seeing this as a symptom of a disease that's gone on for way too long. It is time now for us to come together in solidarity. That despite superficial differences, we are all one. We all have the same color blood, same organs, same body shape. We're all human. That's our race. People are speaking out, but in positive terms. As we mourn the useless loss of life, useless, we are all asking, what can we do to make things better? We are all reflecting and coming to terms with that division that has affected our society, and people are finally saying, enough is enough. As we go forward, let us remember what the Torah says. Love your fellow as yourself. Let us all act and work toward that goal. We don't have to agree on everything, but let's at least respect each other for our differences and move forward in peace. Amen. Well, I waved to some people. Let's have some comments. Anybody have any feelings? Anybody have any thoughts? Go ahead. Hi, John. Elias? Shabbat shalom to you too, Tracy. And Bev is asking a prayer for her friends Karen's son, Officer Matt Perlette, who is tonight is working a protest on the streets of Morro Bay. So,
Did somebody hear about
go ahead.
I'd like to comment. It's like we're all here worshiping God, and that's why, we can all be one because we're focusing on God. But everybody gets to make a choice whether they want to obey or not. So there's going to be evil people out there that choose not to obey, and they get to still make that choice. I don't think we're going to ever be able to eradicate everybody that decides to make a bad choice. That's the unfortunate thing. We can do as much as we can, and we can try to point everybody to God. But unfortunately, there's always going to be people that make that wrong decision.
People talk about God. We've heard, we've had services in the synagogue where we've had people come up and say, well, people are kicking God out of our schools. And that's why. I don't know if they're kicking God out of our schools. But what makes God so important? Anybody ever see The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Who is this God person anyway, right? Well, we know who God is. He is the being with a capital B that created us. This is his universe. This is his manifestation or hers. This is her reality. God is not a physical being. It's not his or her. Your interpretation, right? So why do we look to God? Because, you look to the creator, because the being that created is the one that's got the blueprint, the formula. That's why we look to God. And if God created all of us, God manifested us. There's a whole piece of God in everybody, right? God created us in his image or her image, however you want to look at it. So if we're all part of God, we're all part of each other. That's the reality. That's reality. These differences are superficial. Anybody read comics back in the 1960s, 70s? Comic books? Infant. Okay. If you ever took a magnifying glass and looked at a comic book, okay, back then, what did you see? You saw little dots. You didn't see any shapes or forms. Oh, I don't know. Maybe they do it differently these days. But you saw little dots. In other words, there was no difference. There was no division. If what does matter? What is physicality? Okay, we all see shapes, and we all see differences. But if you go deep enough into the layers of reality, if you go to molecules and atoms and subatomic particles, what do you see? You don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. One of the things I like to talk about is the stand. Okay, I always like to ask the kids the question: how come I can't put my hand through the stand? Why can't I put my hand through this table? You kids study science yet? It's solid. Okay, what is that table made out of? Wood. What's wood made out of? What's trees made out of? Atoms? What are atoms? What are atoms? Tell me about an atom. Particle. Okay, so let me get to the point. An atom is 99.999% what? No, space. Space. Tell me again why I can't put my hand through something that's 99.99% space. Well, they're not necessarily heavy, but because they're so close together, because they're moving so rapidly that it creates a solid. It's an illusion. Differences are an illusion because that's the level of our perception. That's what we see. We see solid. If we could see into that depth, we would see that there's no solid at all. There's no differences at all. Existence is just one big mishmash. So where did difference come from? Yes, my Rebbitzin, my Chris.
Well, I'm going to revert from your talk about the different stuff. I'm going to get back to the stuff. What happened in the first book? And I'm going to quit line. George Floyd has a very criminal record. He's done some horrible things through his life. Through his research. He's been in prison many times. One time he held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. Black people don't need to use him as their savior. Yes, Black people have been oppressed in many different arenas. And there are a lot of Black people out there that they should hold high in regards. I'm sure you can name a few right here and now.
Yep.
That have been killed. Name one, Steve.
Martin Luther King.
There you go. So, if we want to talk about Black people and people that are held in high esteem, he would be one that I would definitely say yes.
I've met rabbis that march with
I'm
him.
not done talking. Please let me finish. I don't agree with what happened to him. Everybody has a right to a fair trial. And somebody with your knee on your neck where you're telling them, I cannot breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's calling out for his mother. It's a despicable thing to have happened. And that cop needs to be held accountable. But Black people should not be holding this guy as their leader and high esteem. Yes, he may be the final straw. I agree. But there are so many other Black leaders out there that have been more prominent and who have led more things that are more in regards to peace and bringing them together. And so, yes, what happened is despicable. And I don't condone it. This cop needs to be held accountable. He needs to go through a trial, and so do the others, because they stood by and let it happen. But there are things that are not being shown in the media. In my opinion, it should be shown. And I just want to put that out there. That's how I feel. You need to have, if you research this guy's record, because I have researched it, I don't want to say his name, unfortunately. But he actually, he has a huge criminal record. And one of the things he did in his criminal record was he held a gun for a pregnant woman's stomach. Still from her. So this isn't coming out in the media. I'm sorry. I like to research things. Right. I like to find out what's going on. And that's something that is not coming out. And everybody needs to realize that we all need to be held accountable for our actions. Right. And everybody, no matter what they've done, does not deserve to be on the street with a fucking knee to their neck. I'm sorry. It's okay.
Chris,
I'm passionate
Chris
about this. I hate to tell you this. I'm so passionate about this, but nobody deserves it.
Chris discovered Candace Owens today. You know Candace Owens?
I know Candace Owens. I'm sorry, but I love that one.
Well, I'm gonna kind of jump a little bit on what you said, and you made a really good point about people having to research. Now, I personally don't think that Facebook and Twitter should be censored. I don't, and I'll tell you why. Because what I would like to see people do is do their own, exactly what you did. Do your own research.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss like that.
Oh, you got passion. That's okay. You got passion. Anyway, but
We've all done stuff. Come on, yeah. Which one of us hasn't done something like that?
so people need to get smart. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I remember back when I taught Sunday school, and I was telling children this fellas and that, and they were like, and I'm like, and you know what? And we need to be grateful for that. And I think that instead, this is our history, this is our story, this is what it tells us in the Torah, and this is what our experience told us that we need to do. I think that we need to be brave in the face of this. And our country started with people protesting, and it was really peaceful. And I'm scared of that. I'm not a vulnerable person.
Mhm.
You know, I'm going to be vulnerable. But I mean, we are vulnerable. I don't want to be in a situation. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm afraid. I think that we need to be brave. And there's nothing wrong with protesting. You try it again and again and again. Protesting is okay, but rioting and stealing
Yeah.
and Christine, that's what I'm, the part of my point is jump right back to that. This is not okay because there's some people being violent. And I'm sorry there is, but that's not the point here.
Right.
The point is you argued in court, you argued in the media, this and that, for justice, and it didn't happen for us. They killed us, now they're killing other people. So we stop and we say, I may be scared about this, I may be uncomfortable, but you don't just run away from it because we have people are rioting, so now it's not okay. People are stealing from cities, now it's not okay. It's still we still have.
That's right. Do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would just say the difference is if it's systemic, if it's like authorized, if the cops are not doing anything about it and they let these guys go and they didn't do anything, then I would say, yeah, that's the time you got to get up and say it. You know, if they're coming and take your Second Amendment rights or whatever it is, whenever they're attacking some of your rights, then you got to stand up and you got to riot.
Right.
If they're condoning it, the cops are saying, oh yeah, let this guy's off. That's okay to do that kind of thing. He was okay. He didn't use enough. But the thing is, it's not. So it's not really that you have to fight that system because the system isn't doing it. It's one guy that's an ass, you know, that's doing something like that, and he should be punished. No matter what color he is, you're doing it to whatever color person it is. It's wrong. You know, if he's racist, he shouldn't be on the force anyway. So I think sometimes the riot just brings more anger, or these protests could bring more anger. And like I said, I really think it's us coming here for God, looking to God.
Yes. I agree with that.
But what is it going to do if it's not a systemic thing? What is it going to do? Like really, because it's not the system already is punishing a person that would do that. It's definitely wrong. They're already punishing them. What other thing could they do besides punishing them? I guess they could change training, or they could do different things. I mean, you didn't speak yet, so you should say something.
No, you can finish your thought.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
And I totally feel this is pain too as well. I feel the same. When you did the research. I also did the research.
Did you?
Absolutely.
Oh my God, bless you.
I don't. That's why you don't see me post most things on social media because I usually wait to get more information.
Good for you.
And wait for the facts. I don't jump
Good for you.
off of emotion.
Good for you.
But what I see, especially today with the anger, is that people are starving and hungry. And not in the literal sense, but just spiritually hungry. And when you don't have that center, you run to something or you take in whatever pollution's given to you, like identity politics, which is something that media is able to kind of spit at people and they glom onto. It's like, well, we don't have a spiritual center, so we'll just grasp onto superficial labels and what we look like.
Right.
And hold on to those groups.
Right.
But those aren't sustainable.
Right.
It's good for maybe a little bit until you realize that has no true depth or value. I just see a lot of people hungry. Sometimes major change comes from disruption and discomfort. And I don't know how long we have to be uncomfortable, but I'm optimistic at least.
I think that's the problem for me, okay? I think what's happened is that about 20, 30 years ago, politics became about power. But what they did was they tapped into people's anger. And instead of saying, wow, people are angry, let's see what they're angry about and see what they can do about it. Instead, they fan the fuels for their own gain.
Exactly, and that's what a lot of this is about.
It is.
Do you agree?
It is.
It's about fanning
The
politics.
flames. Yeah.
A lot of this is what this is about.
And what we,
Unfortunately.
yeah. Now, unfortunately, okay, so, I'm into transcendental meditation. And the man that brought it out, that introduced it to the world, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he made what I thought was a very profound statement years ago. He said, a country has a government based on its level of consciousness. So in the past, what did we do after World War II? We blamed the leaders, right? We got rid of Hirohito in Japan. We took all the German officers, put them on trial, Italy, right? But those people could not have done what they did without the consent of their people. You look at Russia, right? Now, my cousin up in Northridge, right? She's been to Russia. We had a conversation because I took Russia. And our conversation was that I'm not afraid of Russia. I'm not. Because any country that would let a guy like Putin run them and tell them what to do and not fight, I'm not worried about that. Now I'm worried about North Korea, where people are so afraid that they'll do anything. Now Korea scares me. But Russia, China, no, when you've got a rule of a few people over billions of people, I mean, come on, what are you going to do? You can't think you're not thinking for yourself. And that's what we have to do. People talk about term limits. Okay. We have term limits. We've had term limits for the last 250 years. It's called an election. And people say, well, no, get in the ballot box and push the right button. That's all you got to do. And if enough people do that, then you're going to have change. If you don't, then guess what? This is what you wanted. So how do we fix this? We all have to do it individually. We all have to demand change. And that's what it's going to take. Want to say something?
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
Did you raise your hand? Did you get Paul pass?
Okay, but even the most King David, relatively, that was God said was a man after his own heart. He was a leader and everybody's following him, right? And we're all thinking, okay, yeah, we got to get right. We got to do everything right. And he went and saw that gal over there bathing, when he got enticed, went over and sent her husband out to get killed. Totally guy loyal to him and everything, sends him out the front lines to get killed. And then he denies the thing too, and he doesn't until the prophet came and told him. And that's a good thing about prophets. They come and tell you right to your face,
Yeah.
And then they're protesting, but they're telling you, hey, and then he repented.
Right.
But the fact is that really every one of us does things wrong. And until we turn to God, and good thing it's about David, why he was after God's own heart, was when the prophet came to him, he didn't say, get out of here like King Shaul did. He said, I'm repenting. You're right. It was me. And he got on his face and he repented. And so because that's what I'm thinking, the only solution we got is that everybody's focusing on God. Because as you see, when everybody's focusing on God, it doesn't matter what color, where we come from or anything like that. But anything else, like you're saying, it's superficial. There's nothing really there. So I really don't see how we could actually get to the point where we're not influenced by bad leaders and stuff like that, because we have that nature.
Well,
without God.
Well, my shtick is all about self-esteem. Yeah.
I'm not sure. But all of the peaceful protests were started because the cops, I can't remember his name, the 4 cops, they weren't, held accountable for their actions.
Right.
And that's why it started.
Right.
And yes, George Floyd was definitely a criminal, but he didn't deserve to die. Yes, brought to jail, but not like that.
Of course.
And when he eventually went, the one cop went to jail, and the 3 others, I'm not sure when they're right now. But
I think they're in jail too.
yeah. And not that they had, but there's been hundreds of other POC that had been killed and wrongfully accused
I didn't know that. I didn't know that tear gas was illegal in war. You don't mean mustard gas, do you?
It wasn't tear gas, it was like something else.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, just challenging that they said it wasn't. Yeah, the protesters say enough, but they said it wasn't tear gas, it was something else.
And and some of us that are old enough to remember, we're seeing Kent State all over again.
A lot's going on. A lot.
It is. It
A
is.
lot's going on. It's tragic what's happening. I just want to go.
Go ahead.
Every day, as a professional, I have to treat whoever walks in that door, who's ever hurt you, bleed red, I take care of you. I've done it since. If he would have been killed and we wouldn't have been under quarantine and COVID stress and all that, if it would have even made me. That's my question. Are we just turning the camera away from COVID? Because COVID's still very real.
Yes.
I remember
They just closed Israel down again.
COVID's not real anymore because the whole focus now is on this.
That's what I'm saying. They turn the camera from left to right now.
Yep. So people are pretending that this month's numbers are really critical because it's really going to say if the kids are going back to school or not. And with people now forgetting, oh, I still need to be responsible. I still need to be like, what just happened to being nice to everyone? And I don't even want to go to the store. I wear a mask to protect my patient. My girlfriend got in a fight with another lady in the parking lot because she had her mask on her face while she was loading her groceries into the car. Oh, wow. I'm a little tiny petite woman. Do not want to get in a fight with somebody in the parking lot over a face mask. I'm just like, I don't even want to be part of society anymore. It's like, it's
Yeah,
sad.
if we look sideways, it's upsetting. If
It
we look
is.
up,
I
it's
don't
not
even
upsetting.
want to go
You know,
anywhere. Just don't want to deal with. Are you having a bad day? Maybe you're having a really bad day. Maybe your unemployment's run out and you're hungry and your mortgage payment is going to be late again. You're going to take it out on me. It's like we all have so much mental health problems right now. I'm just like, I'm driving.
Yeah.
It's just everywhere. So it's like interesting the way how everything. And we're in election year.
That's why we got to demand and you got to act, man. You know, how do you make a forest look greener? You look at the trees that need the watering and you water the trees. And you need to do that because what is a forest? It's a oxygen machine. And the more trees, the better oxygen, right? Yeah. So, you know, you don't want to have bad trees. You have a bad tree, you try to fix it. And then the whole forest looks better. And that's what we have to do. You know, people say, well, why do we got to help everybody in society? Because you're ultimately going to suffer if you don't. That's the bottom line. You know? So.
Of course. In reality, and really. Again, it's just so much stress. No, there's stress. Right. Fuck it up. Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm sort of like, come on, people. I mean, I'm coming out of the end of 2 very hard years in my life, and I'm like, this is, you know, be brave. Like what the lady said in the parking lot. I'm sorry. I hope you're acting. Bye-bye. You know, like.
Chris, I know you had your hand up. Jacob, did you have your hand up? Did you want to say anything? Okay. Years ago when I was working at the psych hospital, I was going for my Class C license so I could drive a van, drive kids around. And I was taking my test, and we're in San Clemente, and we get to a 4-lane, 4-corner stop sign where they all had stop signs. So I stopped at the stop sign, and what is it? Let the car on the right go, right? And I was on the right. The car over there goes, right? So I was getting ready to go. Another car comes, goes. Another car comes, goes. So I look at the tester that was next to me, and I said, I guess the person with the right of way is the one that wants it badly enough, huh? No, it wasn't. Actually, there wasn't anybody at the time. I know, right? Right. No, I've gotten older. I've mellowed out in my old age for me, so you're on the freeway, somebody cuts in front of you. Good luck getting where you're going. Yeah.
I just wanted to finish with what happened to George Floyd was tragic. The guy wasn't a saint, but they're making him out. Sorry, he wasn't. He has a criminal record that's obscene. But that doesn't justify what that cop did to him. Held his knee on his neck, and he died a horrible death. He shouldn't have done that. And that cop's going to have to pay for that.
He will. He will. And I'm just going to say this too. It's
And
not.
I'm like that.
Okay.
I'm so happy. So, that being said, I want to move on. Anyway, I got a message from Deb, and she says that she wants to do a prayer for her friend Karen's son, Officer Matt Carlett, who tonight is working a protest on the streets of Morro Bay.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just going to say one last thing in response to you, and
Okay.
if somebody has a response to that, that's fine too. But maybe it's just my perception. But this isn't about George Floyd. This is about one more. That to me is what this. It's like enough. How many more? Good, bad, indifferent. And I think that's the issue. It's like, here we go again. And then we're going to have another one, and then another one. And I think that's what all the uproar is. That's just my perspective. Okay. Let's move on. I was almost thinking of opening it up to the audience at home, but here all night, which, let's just all think about this, man. And, maybe we should all think about what can I do individually to make this a better world, me personally. Maybe I can't go out and cure COVID or, discover an economic system where everybody's rich, but I can certainly smile at somebody. Somebody drops their groceries. Hey, let me give you a hand. I got my mask. Don't worry. Okay, let's wrap up the service. We're coming to the end, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the full Kaddish, and then we'll move on. Well, I guess I'll skip the full Kaddish. Whatever. I'll be on that. You know why I was going to do the full Kaddish, right? Oh, really? Yeah, okay, I'll do the full Kaddish then. You want? No, I don't have to. Yeah. Okay. Let's just do Elena on page 118. You guys know Elena? Sure you do. Come on up. All the kids, come on up. Lead us in Elena. 118. You want to play the guitar for it? I don't either. Here you go. You know, by heart? Okay. Yeah, you want that? You want the book? You need the book? Okay, go for it. Elena, page 118. I'll step out of the way here. Let you guys take, whoops, center stage. Go ahead.
One, two, three, go.
Later. You guys need some coffee? All right, go ahead. Later, let's Shalom, Asanu, Kedoye, Aratso, Velo, Samanu, Kamesh, Pachad, Hadama, Shalom, Sam, Felkenu, Kayam, Begor, Aleinu, Kefo, Hamona, Mibel, Ve'anachnu, Korim, Umeshtachavim, Umodim, Lifnei Melech, Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Nata Shamayim ve'Yoser Haaretz, U'Moshe Dikara B'Shamayim Ima'am, U'Shkina Tuzo, Begabe Meromi, Ueloheinu Eino, Ememokeinu Efesulato, Kakadu Betaraso, Beadakayom Beashebota, Elevavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Bashamayim Ima, Be'aretz, Be'aretz, Mitachat Einon, Einon, V'ne'emar, V'hai Adonai, V'melech al kol haaretz, Bayom ha'hu, Bayom ha'hu, Yeh Adonai echad, U'shema, U'shema, U'shema echad, U'shema echad. Thank you. Very nice. So for the second time tonight, what's that? What? What? Hakol Bereshit. What? Oh. But that's not a complete word though. All right, so let's get a little serious. So Mourner's Kaddish is on page 124. We do it for the second time tonight. And if anybody has a yortzeit or an anniversary, somebody, go ahead. You want to say the name of God down here, but if you want to say the name, go ahead. Okay. So this week, remembering Chaim Melech, Herb Silverman. Everybody remember her? May Silverman, Sherry Beth Reeder, Yolanda Houston, Ella Burns, who's Abby Prince's mother, Pat Motter, all the victims that have died in the riots, the COVID-19 victims, Rachel Leah Bat Manga, Abraham Moshe Bar Rachel, and Bob Rodriguez. Anybody else? Yes. Alfred Cowan. Okay. Anyone else? Mourner's Kaddish is on page 124. Yikadal, Yikadash, Shmei, Rabah, Yamah, Yibra, Yitei, Yamlich, Yitei, Yechol, Yechol, Yedechol, Beit Yisrael, Hadalah, Zman, Karib, Root, Amen. Yesh, Shmei, Rabah, Barak, Olam, Omed, Maya, Barak, Shabbat, Bahar, Olam, Say, Nadar, Yedaleh, Amal, Shmei, Shah, Ela, Mikol, Birchata, Shmata, Shmata, Birchata, Da'amiran, Alma, Yiru, Amen. Yehi Shalom, Rab, Amin, Shmaya, Vayim, Aleinu, Yalko Yisrael, Yiru, Amen. Say Shalom, B'Romah, Huya Aseh, Shalom, Aleinu, Yalko Yisrael, Yiru, Amen. Seated. So as we've said a prayer for those who have left us, we say a prayer for those who need healing. And if you have the book on Misha Barracks on the inside cover, and we want to hold these people in our hearts, it's a long list. Let's pray that it gets shorter. Yehoshua ben Devorah, Rachel bat Sarah, Moshe ben Sarah, Jack Epstein, Cindy Epstein, Robert Taylor, Annette Woodcock, Hannah bat Chandler Sarah, Lynn Kaplan, Malcolm Kepner, Mitch Stovall, Anthony Frere, Phyllis Silverman, Jordan Ray, Eileen Bartfield, Shandel, Deborah Batgita, that's you, Judy. Kelly Rivak, Liba Aliana Bat Yisrael, Charlotte Rose, Jacob Thomas Nassim, Hal Surowitz, Charlene Batova, Sandy Herman, Maury Wolf, Bob Dyer, Dave Rutberg, Kaika Bassa, Bat Margalit, Alice Weiner, Diane Frank, May Sachs, Matthew Unwin, Joe Robbins, Val Polly, Alta, Sarah, Yona Ben Bruno, Katie Rizzo, Sarah Birch, Marcia Litt, Rabbi Yitzchak Hurwitz, Catherine Jones, Sylvia Biskowitz, Ken Mallon, William Fitzpatrick, Mel Snyder, Greg Sterling. Mel wanted to be with us tonight. Can't get out of it. Dr. Alexandra Levine, Moria Batrifka Esther, Dale Licking, Phil Cohn, Rebecca Farrell, Naftali Solomon, Kat Millar, Nina Nussbaum, Yehudit Solomon, Martin Garcia Jr., Adam Solomon, Scott Levine, Bill Frank, William Frank, Lenny Colvin, Alyssa Escar, Madeline Dawes, Jay Rose, Carolyn Resnick, Helen Lombardo, Rick Schoenfeld, Ken Dodd, Jordana Seaman, Jessica Seaman, Amber Cunningham, Allison Lozer, Michael Beck, Lori Joe Beck, and those that are still fighting COVID-19. Anybody else? Misha Bara prayer is on the inside cover of your book. Let's sing and think about these people getting better. Come on, I'm doing yoga. I should be able to do this. There we go. See? Misha Bara, let's go to need our healing. Renewal of God, renewal of spirit. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for allowing us to join you. Should we stop there? Or do you want to do a donut alone? Donut alone? Which version? Fast version? Fast version. Give me the part of it because. Hey, which one? A donut?
You don't like the one that starts off slow? You guys don't hear it.
Page 128. That one or donut alone? That one? Which one is that?
It's one of the two versions.
Well, the one I play is the French Sephardic version. Oh, yeah. He makes me believe All right. Thank you, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us. Let's go and let's retire. Now you know. Now, y'all know no one's leaving. I mean, we all got COVID-19 now. We're all going to quarantine together.
Lock it down.
All right. And to all of you folks, thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. This is the way a service needs to be. All right. And thank you to Jack and Alana for joining me. The band's back together. Okay. All right. We'll end YouTube and we will end